Hey everybody, welcome to my kitchen, Cooking Italian with Joe. Today's a big day. We got a meatballs. How you doing, a meatballs? I love meatballs, guys. So this is my, if you will, secret recipe. Everyone's got their own secret recipe, and this is the way I've made meatballs for many years. It's got a little bit of a twist to it, and I'll show you how to kind of deepen the flavor, richen the flavor of the meatball with a couple of little, like I said, little tips. Meatballs go with any American, if you will, the Italian-American dish. You think of sauce, you think of meatballs, you think of spaghetti. So, but they're great. What's great about meatballs is you can make them that day and certainly serve them. You can put them in some sauce, which is great. Serve them with your dish or dinner or lunch that day. What's great is you can store them for a few days. So the next day you can, maybe split them in half. You can make a meatball sub. Just have a few meatballs with some sauce and cheese, what have you. But I just love meatballs. They're just a great compliment. So that being said, you'll hear a lot of different versions of making a meatball. What we did here is we're going to use veal, pork, and beef. So the proportions here, and I'm going to make a lot of meatballs here, so we're going to get about 30 plus meatballs out of this, okay? So we got 2 pounds of ground beef, and that is 80-20, okay? So it's going to have a 20% fat, okay? And then we've got veal here, okay? So we got 1 pound of veal, and we've got 1 pound of pork. All right, so that's our ratio as far as meat goes. And not to confuse you, but I just want to kind of go over it. We're going to use a half of a cup per pound when you're making meatballs. So we've got a little over 2 cups here of breadcrumbs, okay? Now those are breadcrumbs, homemade breadcrumbs by me. And what we do there is we're going to put in your traditional Italian seasoning with it. So you're going to put a little bit of salt. Now remember, bread's got a little salt in it already. You can buy flavored breadcrumbs, that's fine. And then I flavor it with rosemary, thyme, oregano, and basil, okay? And I put a teaspoon of each in there, just to give you a heads up, okay? We're going to have 1 large golden onion is what I did. Golden onion's a little bit of a deeper flavor, and it's a little sweeter, just to give you a heads up. We're going to also add in there a half of a pound of pancetta, and I'm going to show you how to prep that. All right, you're going to usually use about 1 egg per pound. So 1 egg per pound, 1 clove of garlic, give or take, per pound. Okay, and you're going to use a 1/4 cup of a Parmesan and a 1/4 cup of Romano cheese per pound. Again, general rule, okay? And then you're going to use some salt, obviously, pepper, and olive oil. Generally, the rule is about 1 teaspoon per pound of meat. Okay, and then you're going to use maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of pepper, and you're going to use about a half a cup or more of olive oil. Okay, so just to kind of give you that, I'm going to certainly list it on my Facebook page. I'll list it on the ingredients on my web page as well. Okay, so that being said, what I want to do is kind of get started with the meat. But before I do that, one of the ways we want to start here is we want to caramelize the onions. So rather than it doesn't make it wrong, but a lot of times you'll see somebody make a meatball and they meat the ball. I love saying that, by the way. But you see them make meatballs and they'll put the raw onion in there, and that's fine. But a way to deepen the flavor is to caramelize your onion and your garlic. When you're done with that, you're going to put when they get close, you're going to put the pancetta in there. So all of those are going to cook together. You're going to get a caramelized flavor. It's going to deepen it. It's going to give it that roasted flavor. And you're going to take the oil from the pancetta as well, and you're going to put that all in your meatball mix. Okay, so that's one of my secrets, or one of the ways I do it. So I'm going to put the onions in to get them going. All right. And what I try to do here, just to save us time, is get everything prepped. So I've got my onions going. I'm going to put my garlic in. Now remember, when we caramelize, what you're basically doing is just that. Like, you're bringing the caramel out, you're bringing the sugars out. So you're going to use a low heat, and it's going to take a while. You do not want to rush it in any way. You want it to basically cook down. It's going to get golden brown. You want to also make sure your olive oil is low temperature. You do not want to use a lot of heat, because you don't want to fry it. You're not trying to fry it, okay? You're caramelized. So when I put it in there, a lot of times if you put onion, garlic in a pan and you hear it start to sizzle, the heat's too hot. Okay, so just take it off to the side, let it cool for a few minutes, and then you can bring it right back in. So I have in here, like I said, 1 large golden onion. I've got 4 to 5 cloves of garlic, and I've got in here about a 1/4 cup of olive oil. So I'm going to stir it all up and get everything coated with oil, and then guess what? You do nothing, okay? I'm going to turn the heat up on that just a touch, So we don't want it to go too long. Okay, and then when we're doing that, it's about a little bit more than half done, maybe 3/4 of the way done. Then I'm going to put the pancetta in there, and we're just going to let it go. Okay, so I've got my 2 pounds of ground beef, 80/20, right? I'm going to put 1 pound of veal. Oh, this is fun. Isn't this fun already? Can you just taste meatballs? You guys love meatballs? Hopefully if you're watching this video, you love meatballs. So I'm going to just mix that up a little bit. All right, and just to kind of get it going. And one of the things, kind of fun to do that. I remember working down at my dad's restaurant. We used to make tons of meatballs, so they had a huge aluminum bowl, and everything was so cold, and your hands would get frozen when you'd mix it all up. One of the pieces of advice I always try to give you guys, and it's true with baking and cooking as well, is try to get everything about room temperature. So, whoop, I lost my rag there. So we're always going to keep everything going around room temperature. So bring everything out about a half hour or so before you get started. And that way all your ingredients mix really well, so because they're all the same temperature. Again, one of my pieces of advice on eggs, there's 4 eggs, 1 egg per pound, is I always like to mix the eggs first before I put them in. And that just ensures that you have a really good mix. It's not a good idea to crack the egg over your food when you put it in there. Particularly with baking, because you know it's white, typically flour, sugar, and you can't see the shells. But same thing, you don't want to put a bunch of shells in your food if the egg doesn't open properly. So we're going to get that going, and you're just going to mix everything. I mean, this is not complicated. It is a lot of fun though. Okay, and like I said, you're going to use a 1/4 cup of your cheeses. That just smells phenomenal. Oh yeah, that smells good. Okay. And then we want to use some salt. We got breadcrumbs. We got pepper. We got olive oil. So breadcrumbs, like I said, you're going to use a 1/2 cup per pound. And I want to give you those ratios not to confuse anybody. I know some people, they're not so great when it comes to fractions, right? But you may not want to make this large of a portion, right? So you're going to use about a teaspoon, if you remember, of salt per pound of meat, okay? So just to give you a heads up on that, all right? So there's 4 teaspoons, give or take. Right, we're going to use about a teaspoon of pepper, because you're using about a 1/8 pepper. Isn't that great? I'll tell you, if you can, I know everybody can't, but if you can, always do fresh ground pepper. I mean, it smells, it's night and day difference, and just gives you that nice smell, which is, and that flavor, you know, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to deepen that flavor. So that's great. Now olive oil, and 1/4 cup per, oh yeah, can never do enough olive oil. And about a 1/4 cup per pound, okay? And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix that. Before I do that though, I'm gonna take my pancetta, I'm gonna bring it over here, and these are going. The onions, so if you wanna come over here real quick, just take a peek. You see they're starting to go now. They're not frying. What's happening is they're giving off a lot of moisture. And they're gonna cook way down. Can you smell that? Oh, that smells good. No, white onion is gonna have a little bit more bite to it. Yellow onion is always gonna, or the golden onion there is always gonna be a little bit sweeter. It doesn't have as much bite. They're a little easier to cut too. When you're cutting them, they're not gonna make your eyes bleed, if you will. So I'm gonna let that go. I'm going to turn that down just a touch, and let's get going on our meat. Okay, so we've got everything in here, breadcrumbs and cheese and eggs and salt and pepper, and this is going to take a few minutes. Okay, so that's why I wanted to turn that down, because I'm not going to be able to tend to it for a few minutes. So what I'm going to do is get right in there, and at first it's going to make a mess, and at first, as I always say, it doesn't look like it's going to turn into anything. But it will. I mean, that smells, you know, the cheese and the oil. You put olive oil and cheese on anything with salt, it just tastes great. I don't know about you guys, but that's certainly what I think. Now, commercially, they'd have a big commercial mixer to mix this. So today I'm the commercial mixer. So, and you just want to make sure that everything gets really well incorporated, okay? And we're gonna mix it again because we have to put our caramelized onions in there and our pancetta, okay? So you're not gonna necessarily make it perfect right now. It's meatball day. Did I tell you guys that already? We got our music playing. We were missing that on the first segment there. Sorry about that. All right, so here we go. We've got, if you want to come right in here, what I've got are the onions going, and they're getting close now. What starts happening? They start to get translucent, and they really start to get kind of soft. And you'll notice, just a little tip, if you can't find, but I always like to use a white porcelain when I brown certain things or when I fry. Only because you can see how dark it is. If you use a cast iron pan, a lot of times it's tougher to tell how dark it is. So with the contrast, so these are starting to get soft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pancetta. Okay, so I got a half pound of pancetta, and I'm going to put that in there. And what's nice about that? Now pancetta is essentially, they call it Italian bacon. It's basically pork belly, just like regular bacon. It's a little bit more of a fatty cut than bacon, or traditional American bacon, if you can call it that. So what's nice about this is the fat from the pancetta is going to come out, and it's going to add to the flavor of the garlic and the onion, and it's awesome. So that's one of my little tips or secrets. So with the pancetta, it gives it a little bit of a different flavor. You don't taste it, if you will, but it gives it just a little bit of that flavor. And then, like I said, with caramelizing it, it gives it a deeper, rich flavor that you typically don't get in the meatball, which is great. And then you put them in some sauce, and they're going to work really well. Okay, another tip that we want to use, or I want to share with you, is this. What I've got here is a pan going, and I've got about a little bit over 1/4 inch of olive oil. Now why is that? Because we're going to fry our meatballs. Now by that what I mean, you're not going to deep fry them, so you're going to pan fry them, but you want to have a little bit of a bath of the oil. Why? You want to sear the outside of the meatball. When you sear it, what it does is it keeps the moisture, and that's why deep fried things are always so great, because the outside is crispy, right? It's brown, but the inside always stays moist. So that's what you can do with the meatballs. So we're going to make a bunch of meatballs. We're going to put them in the oil, and then you got to be, you're full in now. You're very attentive to it, and you're going to fry it, and then you're going to rotate them 3 times. Then you're going to turn the heat down just a bit, and you're going to let them fry, if you will, or pan sear. And what that's going to do is that's going to seal in all those juices, all that beautiful flavor inside the meatball. Oh my God, they're unbelievable. It's going to taste so great. These literally are going to be the best meatball you have ever had. I'm telling you right now. So try the recipe, have some fun with it. It's not too complicated. You're going to go to the grocery store, get a few things first, obviously, and I'll make sure, like I said, I'll post the recipe up for you. I'll talk to you guys in a few minutes. Come on right in here. Now this has been, it's going to take about 20 minutes. Oh my gosh, does that look awesome? And all this is, I had to fight my camera person off here just because she wanted to dive right in there with a spoon. No, not going to happen. But listen, that's olive oil, pancetta, garlic, and onion. And that has such a deep caramelized flavor. And if you look here, you see all the bits? They get kind of gooey and sticky. That's what you want. Now this is cast iron. See, you can tell. And if you can come in real quick, you're going to see when you know it's starting to get ready. Is you see how the bottom of the porcelain starts to get kind of dark? When all those bits start to get on the bottom, you want to scrape all that off. So this is done, okay? But this is hot. So what I'm going to do is just set it aside for a sec, okay? And I'm going to grab one of my mitts here, okay? All right. I'm just going to take this over to the side, and I'm going to put it right on the stone here for a minute, and just let that cool. All right, guys. So what we have is a lot of oil. So this is cooling down, but we've got oil that we're going to put the meatballs in. So today we're not going to do a sauce because we already have a sauce that we made. But that being said, if you got a sauce going, what you want to do is transfer near the end. That, you know, my advice is always near the end. So you're going to take the meatballs out, and you're going to take some of the oil, especially with all those little bits. So what I'll usually do is drain off the top of the olive oil, and then what you're going to do is left with a thicker part of the oil with some of those bits from frying them. You're going to put that all in your sauce, and you mix it up, and it adds that flavor to it. I'm not a big fan of putting the meatballs in there and letting them cook, because meat, if you cook it with moisture, typically, you know, water, steam, liquid, it tends to get a little rubbery, and I don't like that. So I like to fry them, get them nice and crisp. It gives a different texture on the outside, and then just put them in right near the end. And they're great, and they won't continue to cook. So this is stop sizzling. You see that? So what I'm going to do now is, and I'm gonna move it quick because I don't want this to cook the meat, right? So I'm gonna put kind of a little valley. This is how I do it anyway. Okay, I'm gonna put a little valley in there, right? And then what I'm gonna do is take the pancetta, onion, garlic, roasted, right? I'll try to do that here, right? And I'm gonna put that right in there. That's cool for, you know, just a few minutes, which is fine. And then we're gonna mix it. The meat's still kind of cool, right? And then what I'm gonna do is just start to mix it. And I'm gonna try to do this without getting it all over my shirt. And you just keep mixing it. There you go. You got a little Tony Bennett playing. Always makes it great. Oh my God, it just smells. Now you got cheese, you got salt, you got pepper, you got caramelized onions, caramelized garlic, breadcrumbs that are flavored, oregano, rosemary, thyme, basil. Oh my God, are you serious? And then what I'll do is just get it going here. I mean, hopefully you can just kind of smell that. And then just get it going. I just had a flashback. That was my grandmother, because she used to shake the wooden spoon. She used to mix it vigorously to get it through. There you go. Look at that. I'm almost done right at the same time that Tony Bennett is done. You know, I think I shared this in one of my videos. My father would always play a little radio. He had this like 50-cent radio he put in the corner. I mean, the speaker was poor quality, but he'd always play. In the mornings on Sunday, they'd have the Italian music on at a station. So it was mostly Sinatra, but Perry Como, and some people don't like those. But that's what I grew up on. So okay, so now we're gonna mix that. Now we really want to mix it thorough. Okay, so now, and you can see it's kind of, you still got some oils, but now see when you look at the onion, see it's already cooked. Your pancetta is already cooked in there. It's all caramelized. So it's gonna add that deep flavor, that richer flavor. So you're not gonna get like a bite into a big raw onion, you know? And that's gonna happen no matter what when you cook a meatball. Or it's gonna be, if you will, tenderize the onion, but this gives it that nice roast flavor. Now this you gotta mix. You gotta spend a few minutes squeezing it, squishing it. You got veal, you got pork, you got beef, and all those flavors marry. And I know I said this before, but it's all the same temperature. So when I put my hand in here, it's not like you have something cold, something hot. It's all the same temperature. So it marries very well, mixes very well, the flavors. You got Sinatra on. Nothing better than making meatballs with Sinatra. I went to the gym today, so my chest and shoulders are a little sore already. But you gotta go to the gym or work out, because when you make some of these meals, you know, they're not what I would call low-cal. Beautiful. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start to divide this up into meatballs, okay? So I'll show you, again, another little tip I use. Let me organize this over here. Whoop. So one of the tips I'm gonna use with you is we're gonna shell out ice cream, okay? Here it is. Here's an ice cream scooper. So you basically want to have a unified shape and size. Why? Primarily for cooking, because you're gonna put them all in the pan at one time. So you don't want to have something big and small, because then they're not all gonna cook at the same time, okay? So just a little tip. I'm gonna slide this off to the side, and we're gonna start divvying them up. So you're just gonna hook it in there, and then what I'll do on this is just a little bit over the top, okay? Just a little bit over the top. And then you're gonna make a meatball. There you go, look at that, perfect, is that beautiful? All right, so there's your perfect size meatball. When I was in Italy, in the northern area of Italy, they would make like a beef tartare. So they would go get a leaner, fresh ground, freshly killed beef, and they would basically, you'd eat it raw, like a carpaccio. You'd basically have the burger, you'd flavor it with salt, pepper, some olive oil. The first thing you'd put in there though is lemon juice. And the acid from the lemon essentially cooks the meat a little bit. And oh my God, it sounds gross, you know, when you kind of think about it, but boy, when you taste it, it was great. And then you do bread sticks or do some bread, whoops. Sometimes you get the little house spot. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna spend the next few minutes making a meatball. Now you have to start saying, making a meatball. And see, look how beautiful mix. Everything's just perfect on that. Isn't that beautiful? Right, I'm just gonna set them aside. So I'll go ahead and make these. We'll count them out in a few minutes, and then I'm gonna show you how to fry them. Set them aside. We're gonna plate them, hit them with some sauce, a little parsley, and they're gonna be some really good meatballs. I'll talk to you guys in a few minutes. It's a meatball time, meatball frying time. All right, so what I did is obviously I mixed all those together, and I took that ice cream scooper as I showed you, and you're gonna see they're all pretty much uniform size, okay? So that's perfect. Isn't that beautiful? Does that not look beautiful? Just that alone, right? So guys, what you want to do here is just gently slide them in, okay? That's the trick. Do not splash them. And you want to keep them tight. And if they're not where you want, that's fine. Just slide them over. See what I mean? It's nice and easy. Don't panic. All right? Now you want to get them in pretty quick here because you don't want one to start getting way ahead on cooking than the other, okay? Watch your fingers and just move them around. I'm like a machine, all right? I'm like a meatball making machine. And they smell great. I mean, you've got this beautiful... Now what's bubbling, a lot of that is the moisture from your meat, okay? If you go too lean on the meat, and I hear, you know, a lot of times you hear people, well, I want to go lean on, I'm telling you, it's not going to give you a good meatball. It gets really dense and dry, and you don't want that, okay? So trust me, you know, these aren't what you call healthy meatballs, but you know, again, guys, what I always tell you, sometimes people go to the store and you buy the meatball mix, and I hear you, but you know, no offense, you don't know what the hell's in there. And they're gonna mix something in there and you don't know what it is. And a lot of times, you know, not all places by all means, but what's gonna happen is they're gonna put some of those waste parts in the meatball mix, they're gonna put the cheaper meat in the meatball mix, and that's not what you want. I'm gonna turn the heat up just a little extra because we're losing some heat on the oil, which is fine. And then what I have to do is a food that's cold or raw, if you will, like let's say caprese salad or something like that, you're always going to want to use the absolute best. If you're using something for bread dipping, you always want to use something that's the absolute best. So these are frying away. We're probably looking at 10 minutes tops. And what we're going to do is turn them, and then we're going to plate them, sauce them, and I'll show you what they taste like. It's going to be great. I'll talk to you guys in a couple minutes. Happy Meatball Day! All right, guys, so we're gonna... I gotta liven you up just in case you're falling asleep on me. All right, so here we go. They're done. Now, how do you know that? They're crispy on both sides, okay? And you're gonna notice your meatball when the meat gets harder, when it gets cooking, you're gonna notice the meatball is gonna get harder. And meat will do that, right, when you're checking. And I put them on a rack just to drain off any oil, okay? And then I try to go in the order in which I put them in, right? So those other ones, if it's another minute, And notice that nothing is sticking to the pan, right? How do you know that? You want to make sure your oil is nice and hot before you start putting them in there. All right? This is how you make a great tasting meatball. And you talk to a lot of people, Italians, and you'll find different regions of Italy, they cook things a little differently. See, now that one's a little bit softer. That one's better. So if you grab one, it's a little spongy, just let it stand there an extra minute. Don't worry about it. All right, that one's perfect. And you're just gonna pull them out of that pan. The ones on the outside are the ones I did first, so. And see how they're nice? And you're gonna get that nice crisp. It's got that crisp there, see that? It's perfect. And that's what gives it that flavor, that taste, because you're essentially caramelizing the meat. The meat, believe it or not, has sugar in it. And just like the onions and vegetables and everything. Okay, so that one's a little bit soft, so I'm gonna pull this one out. I just wanna keep an eye on them. The heat's not gonna be dispersed through the pan perfectly, so you gotta kind of use a heads up. Yeah, that's good. And they're still gonna cook. You gotta remember now, they're hot right now. So these puppies are still gonna be cooking over here on the tray. Okay, now look at that. See, there's not a lot of oil in there. It looked like there was a lot of oil in there. So just heads up depending on how many you put in there. Right, look at that. Oh. All right, so they're setting. I'm gonna shut the heat off. Whoop, shut the heat off. I got my sauce hot. And I'm gonna let them set for a minute, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my plate ready. We're gonna put them in, we're gonna plate them, we're gonna taste them, they're gonna be great. All right guys, so they've been sitting here just for a couple minutes. Okay, what I'm gonna do, whoops, forgot. I knew what I was gonna do, I wasn't doing it though. So, all right. So you're just gonna put a little sauce on the bottom of a nice platter, right? And then what I'm gonna do is pop them in there. Now, a nice idea to garnish these, you can throw a little cheese on them, like a Parmesan, if you want, while they're hot. And it's always nice. I tell you, when you smell, oh my God. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You got the veal, you got the pork, you got the beef, you got the olive oil that you cooked them in. So you're pulling up that, olive oil flavor that's in it, and that oil gets hot, so that helps cook it from within, right? And you see all those little crispies? That to me is the favorite part. Like, see this right here? That, oh my God. It's got cheese, it's got the pork, the caramelized onion. These are just, I dare say, one of the best meatballs I've ever made. That's impossible. And then we're gonna just set them. So now, obviously, we got a nice big meal coming up here, all right? So what I like to do, again, because you can't put these all in the amount of sauce that you're making, you couldn't put them all in a saucepan, right? And they're a great garnish to go with, or compliment, I'm sorry, to go with anything, right? I'm gonna do this. Just put a little sauce, oh my God. Now there's a little trick I want to show you before everyone comes over here to eat. Un moment. This is the chef's portion, okay? So I'm going to grab one of those right there, okay? I'm going to put a little of this in there. Oh, homemade sauce, there you go. Okay, pop it there. What do we got now? We got a little... Oh, are you serious? Honest to God. Now, before the crew comes over, is that awesome? Look at that. And here we go. Look at that. Cooked perfectly through. You see how moist it is? It's not uncooked, right? But it's nice and moist. Can you see that? Moist. Right? But the outside has got that nice hard crisp. Oh my God. That's the most unbelievable meatball I've ever had. And I love that. I love that because it's got the texture, you know, on the outside. You put a little sauce on there. One more. I just got one more. That's hot, no doubt about it. And you've got the cheeses in there. And one of the things I've seen on meatballs, sometimes people use too many breadcrumbs. So this doesn't taste like it's full of breadcrumbs. You don't even taste the breadcrumbs. So it's got the cheese, the breadcrumbs, the eggs, the roasted. Remember, the key on that is the caramelized or roasted onions, garlic, pancetta. Put that in the right proportions of your meat, your veal, and your pork. It's absolutely delicious. Hope you guys enjoyed one of my favorite meals, one of my favorite dishes, and I certainly enjoyed sharing it with you guys. Bon appetit. Remember, family's the soul of life. You can be assured my family is going to enjoy that plate right there. Have a wonderful day, guys. I'll talk to you in our next video. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook. I'll talk to you guys soon.